Good evening. Time is now 6:31. I will call this meeting to order. If you would all please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beginning with the roll call. Gary Salomon.
Here.
Sean Peterson. Here. Linda Stardust. Here. Keith Norman. Don Cabela.
Here.
Linda Fedor.
Here.
Stephanie Walsh.
Here.
All right. Neither Ted DeMay or Lisa Carrot are here. They did not notify me of their absence. All right. First order of business is the minutes from the May 6th meeting. Are there any corrections or amendments that need to be made from that meeting?
Matt Brady is spelled right, so I guess that's okay.
Okay, that's good.
I will move to accept.
I'll second it.
All right, motion is made to accept the minutes by Don, seconded by Lynn. All those in, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. At this time, I will open up the floor to citizens' participation. If there's anybody that would like to make comment or address the board with questions or anything of that nature, if you would, just use the microphone over there and give us your name and whether you're a resident.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Virginia Allen Musip. We recently heard that one of the possible reasons that this gasification plan has been proposed here in Plainfield is that we don't have enough money to fight them. I suggest we do have the money to fight them. Rather than move money from the fund balance into the education budget, use the fund balance surplus money, or a portion of it, to hire an attorney to represent the tax-paying homeowners and landowners of Plainfield. We should not be continually using fund surpluses to supplement budgets, but perhaps save those funds for a rainy day. I would say we're looking at a potential hurricane here. Further, while I understand overestimating expenses and underestimating income, we should not be looking at a constant mill rate increase. Look at the bloat in your department budgets. Beyond those that are contractually required, your taxpayers actually do have a financial breaking point. This latest group of no votes should clearly tell you taxpayers here in Plainfield have reached that point. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Board of Finance and other Plainfield residents. My name is Chris Russo, and I've been a Plainfield resident in Moosup for 9 years. I've been a teacher here in Plainfield for 8 years. As a note, the Board of Education or the Plainfield Education Association certainly does not endorse my remarks here, and I'm speaking as a resident teacher. Early yesterday morning, I went out to vote before school started, and I started my teaching schedule. Early this morning, today, I was looking at CT Reed and looking at my resume, something I have not had to do in 9 years when I was hired here in Plainfield, and I actually felt like education was somewhat valued. I did find an opening where one of my peers recently went, where my two-step freezes probably would be ignored, and I'd be on the step that I should be, and can make about $15,000 more starting this upcoming August if I apply. $20,000 once I finish my second master's. I know that we're looking to cut over $1 million between the town and the Board of Ed, and I've been thinking about what this looks like. I've talked to some residents in person and on Facebook about the budget, and some expressed that they believe teachers were overpaid, we don't need all the positions, and that we should get back to the basics. Looking back at the slashes that our proposed budgets have had over the past 8 years by the residents, and thinking about the 8 peers from my building alone who have left for higher pay in the past 2 years, this made me reflect and realize that getting back to the basics is exactly what our school and town need. I'm going to advocate to the Board of Education that we immediately cut the school resource officer from the budget, as it would help to ensure staff and students' peace of mind, increase safety, and promote community engagement between the students and the Plainfield Police. Police officers are not necessary for student learning and growth. I'm going to advocate to the Board of Education that we immediately cut all counselors, psychologists, and guidance staff. The Plainfield public has decried that they only want teachers in the classes, and that anyone that doesn't teach shouldn't get the meager salary that we do. Counselors, psychologists, and guidance staff do nothing for a student population like peer mediating, social and emotional regulating, aiding with special education or 504 plans, or helping when students are in crisis. Counselors are not necessary for the student learning and growth. I'm also advocating for eliminating our technology budget. It's expensive, and if we go back to basics, I remember when I was in high school and we just had rote memorization. I would look at a textbook, do a worksheet, and take a quiz. We don't need engaging lessons that are immersive with sound and video, or maps that were made after 1993. 4 of our classrooms lost power the other day due to the technology we have. This will eliminate the issue. Technology is not necessary for student learning and growth. However, one of the Board of Education's non-teaching line items that is historically expensive is transportation and fuel costs. So I'm advocating that they cut the after-school built busing for a few years until we can rein in our budget. There won't be any clubs, which will also save on teacher stipends. Clubs and other enrichment activities are not necessary for student learning and growth. Coming up in a few weeks is a Memorial Day parade that the PHS marching band attends. However, I know that they take a bus there off of school hours, and since transportation costs are rising, we should have the students walk there. Of course, cleaning the marching band uniforms are expensive to maintain, so we save money by having the kids wear their normal school attire. After all, band and especially extracurricular band activities are not necessary for student learning and growth. Neither are sports. Sports actually detract from student academic growth. I've heard year over year why some teachers don't give out a plethora of homework like they had back in their day. If we eliminate sports here in Plainfield, students will be able to work on all the homework we can now assign. This will also eliminate the athletic director, coaching stipends, uniform and gear costs, and will ensure that students are only focused on academic work in school. Now, I understand students might want to exercise if they can't play school sports. This is where I'm advocating for all the school to cut the busing. If our grandparents could walk uphill both ways to school, why can't we? This helps the students' physical education too. We can cut the gym teachers as well. Since the fields won't be used for sports, we can actually make some money off of the farmers that want to plow and use the fields for crops. Then we can have our students learn that job. Our school can actually attract new residents by being an ag school, and we can have to pay less money to Kinley and others for this experience. Now, the Board of Education budget is bigger than the town, but like I tell my students and the PEA members, one team, one fight. So I'm advocating for the town to eliminate the non-essential town services. The pool is non-essential and should be closed. Upkeep for the Lions Park and other parks and trails around Plainfield are not essential. It should be closed down as well. The senior center is non-essential, and all parks and rec activities should immediately cease as well. Back in the day, we had dirt roads. Who needs modern roads? I'm advocating to stop paving and repairing roads, especially near railroad tracks. It's costly and not necessary. For those that don't want this, 7.5% of the town is controlling the direction of the town. As a social studies teacher, I'm horrified and angry at the low voter turnout. Last year, we had 4.9% vote on the budget. While this is an improvement, it is abysmal for how much the town, the Plainfield Republican and Democratic parties have worked to get the vote out. While I'm not a math teacher, that means that still over 92% of the town did not vote. There's a phrase that democracy dies in darkness. In residents, the clouds are rolling in. My point is this: the townspeople have voted, well, the 7.5% that actually showed up to vote, and they voted to not improving any aspect of the town. Because we can't have growth without investment. Please give them what they want. Let's go back to the 1950s, like many seem to want, and have some nostalgia for it, because that was such an amazing time in U.S. history. Now, the repercussions of the upcoming budget cuts. We will lose teachers, if not directly by whatever cuts the Board of Ed will be forced to make, then by their own accord, as they flee to towns that value education and the professional work. More and more teachers will most likely feel unappreciated by the town, and will start teaching and treat teaching as only a job, and not also as a calling or passion. They will come to school, teach, and leave. Whatever work is not completed during the contractual time will be left at school instead of us grading, planning, and worrying about the kids on our own time after school hours or on the weekends. Year after year, cut after cut, this town and the country in general shows that they don't value education. Soon our education system will be so broken that even presidents won't know what the Declaration of Independence means. and that will be a sad and scary day in Plainfield and America. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Kim Spate, Central Village. Teacher resident for almost 20 years now. I completely support everything Chris Rousseau just said. I've lived in this town for almost 20 years and taught here for 10 of those years. I'm not here fighting for my salary. I've worked 2 jobs since I started in this town, and if I wanted more money, I could add 30 minutes to my commute and not need to work 2 jobs. But I'm here fighting for our kids. They deserve to be able to have what they need to be successful and compete with students from other schools. Many of the teachers in this district do not have kids here, but they come into ours for less salary every day. So as teachers fight for your kids, please know it's not about our salaries, because any increase that we're going to get can't compete with other towns that aren't that far away. We say and we fight for your kids because that's who benefits from teachers being provided with what they need to teach your kids. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening to members of the Board of Finance. I want to start just by acknowledging and thanking the time and commitment you give to Plainfield, to this board, to this community. I know what it is to work within a community and be a public member of that community, be approached by people and have those conversations, so I appreciate that. I'm not here tonight to deny the reality of budget constraints, but simply to urge some caution in how we address them. What we provide in our schools in many places is not extra, it's essential, whether it's academic support, emotional safety, enrichment, or the resources that allow a student to simply show up ready to learn, oftentimes backpack and other things they need for their homes. This drives enrichment and improves outcome, and it strengthens our entire community. I understand reductions are coming tonight. The voters were clear that reductions were coming. As you weigh where and how to make them, I simply ask that you consider that there is a long-term cost to cutting programs, and that some of these services, once lost, are very difficult and costly to rebuild. And I think that that's what we're facing this year. We built our budget in a desire to build back better, to restore things, and I hope that we did it in a way that protects the heart of what we do. I know that sacrifice is required, and I'm willing to be part of the solution. Our Board of Ed will be meeting tomorrow to take a look at everything that we can do to ensure that we preserve the heart of what our students need, and that our work continues to improve outcome for the whole community. But I thank you for listening to me, for your time and consideration, and I appreciate how difficult the conversations you're about to have are. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. This time I will close citizens' participation and we'll move on to item 1 on our agenda. And that is to discuss and act upon the results of the referendum for proposed budget for 2025-2026. As been previously stated, the voting was fairly consistent. Basically, we ran about 60% no on every item that are made. I especially appreciate the fact that we're making decisions on a very small voter turnout. And I've had several ongoing threads of communication with various individuals, and one individual quoted, and I'm going to paraphrase, when nobody's happy, then you've got a good compromise. And unfortunately, we're in a situation where we have to make some compromises and we have to make some cuts. Because we have a budget that was put forth and it did not pass, and it did not pass by significant measure. Our job as a board is to come up with a number that we think will pass. Having been in this spot for a couple of years now, the choices are never easy. Sometimes you get good news and sometimes you don't get good news. We have to look at every end of it. We have to represent the town the best we can. We have to represent everybody that lives in the town. We have to represent the people that struggle to make ends meet. Maybe they're working 2 jobs, maybe they're on a fixed income. But we also have to represent the people that want something really good for the next generation. And we want to prepare them for their life after school. But we also want to prepare them for the hard times, and we also want to protect our residents and our businesses in town. So there are no easy answers. And unfortunately, some sacrifices are going to have to be made, some cuts are going to have to be made that are not very easy. Some of them will be very painful. But again, the vote was significant that what we had on the table wasn't going to pass. It would have been nice if we'd got a better voter turnout, but we have to go and make a decision based on the information that we have on hand and what the voters that did show up told us. So with that in mind, I will open up the floor to the board for any comments and just basic discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, since our last meeting, I kind of knew what was going to happen, so I started work on possible cuts, okay? Because I know it wasn't going to pass. What I came up with is an additional $855,000 off the town and $546,000 and change off the Board of Ed.
How much did you say off the town?
855,902. I guess I can pass out the paperwork if you like it.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have an issue with this paper being passed out. The last time we had papers passed out in the middle of a meeting, they were inaccurate. We didn't have a chance to review them. We were making decisions on the spur of the moment on inaccurate information, and I would like to see the papers recalled.
Yeah, I think if we look at our bylaws, information of this nature has to be disseminated and handed out at least 5 days in advance. You can comment on them, but I don't think it would be helpful for us to try to dissect the reading.
You want me to go line item by line item?
Yeah,
I'll do that. I have all night, okay? Let's do this. Selectmen.
Keep it.
Selectmen.
All right, just one thing that we have to keep in mind is we're responsible for the dollar amount. We cannot dictate what gets cut. That is up to the board of ed.
I don't know. You may want to check. 10-2, paragraph E. The Board of Finance shall then revise estimates as deemed desirable and prepare a general town budget. Board of Finance.
That refers to the dollar amount, and doesn't refer to the specific item, I don't believe.
Okay. It goes by the department. That's what it does. The Board of Finance, upon a request, shall afford each agency or department an opportunity, that's where they have their hearings, and the Board of Finance shall then revise estimates as deemed desirable and prepare for the town budget, each department. You ready?
No.
Selectman's office?
I think, again, I would go back to the fact that our job, as I stated at the beginning, is that we have to give them a dollar amount, and they have to determine what is going to be the best suitable cut that they can make, most appropriate.
He's trying to make an argument for what the dollar amount, how he came up with this idea for the dollar amount.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you came up with your dollar.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna go through each single item.
All right.
Like the selectmen's, Kevin don't get a raise. The one salaries cut from 8% raise to 4%, that's $2,292.
And is that, what salary is that you're referring to?
It just says one salary under the selectmen's department.
So is that contractual?
Is it,
No. I don't think it. And then delete the HR at 55,000. Under assessor audits from 10,000 to 6,500.
and how did you come up with that number? You went from 10,000 to 65. Just give me an example, how you arrived at the number.
I usually try to do a happy medium, like if
All right, so
if
you know what
you're
they're...
increasing the budget of a particular line item,
Mhm.
I won't cut the whole thing back. I'll still give a raise, but not as high, but I won't go low.
But that is that a raise that you're talking about, or is that a line item?
That's a line item.
Okay,
Yeah, it's under audits.
under audits.
Yeah, under audits. Then B&G OT, I cut that from 16,000 to 13,000. And then Kevin cut the new hire. Highway overtime, I went from 90,000 to 85,000.
Excuse me, I'm confused. I thought
I
we just
figured.
had a discussion that,
He's breaking down how he came to his number, he's explaining
Yes.
it to us.
Yeah. So if you're taking these numbers, you write them aside, then you add them up after. So highway overtime, 90 to 85, so that's a $5,000 deduction. Highway new hire was already deleted. PD custodian, I cut in half from 51,054 to 25,527.
That's contractual?
Which custodian are you talking about?
PD.
I believe he has...
Because there's an estimate that we got from the chief that it could be deleted.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like 2 officers at 150,000 roughly, for the benefits and all.
That's contractual.
Then the SRO, I kept that one. It was 51,000. When I went through the Board of Ed's estimates, there was a little discrepancy. It should be 22,867, so that's a deduct of 28,133. Utilities are dropped from 54 to, this is still PD, to 52.5. In the pension, I was going to split up half and half for this year and the next year. Split that up in 2 years, the pension, which was 771, I think.
Was that already changed?
I think it was already changed.
Yeah, it was changed, but I readjusted it so it'd be half and half. So that was a deduct of, make it 373 total instead of the 771, whatever it was. So that was a deduct of 278,556. Building inspection relocation, I cut from 5,000 to 3,500.
And why did you do that?
It's
I mean,
usually,
I mean, you must have a reason for it. I'd like to understand what the reason for cutting it from 5 to 3,500.
again, I split the difference, and we haven't used it that much.
Okay.
Let's see, planning department, travel, I cut from 800 to 600. And then there's near mapping, 2250 for the planning and engineering. I got rid of both of those. EDC marketing, I went from 5,000 to 4,000. Rec, the part-timers, I went from 81 to 56, because I think there was some cuts in there already, right, Kevin? You cut some out of there? Pool guards, 95,840 down to 90. Marketing for the rec, from 8,000 to 6,000. The senior, 73,276 to 71,000. General town telephone, I went from 70,214 to 65,214.
And how did you get to that number? Do you know what the phone bills are?
Huh?
I mean, I want to understand, you're going line by line.
Right.
Did you ask them what the phone bills are?
Do they even know when they do the budget? Because they're always higher or lower.
I mean, I'm sure that they have an estimate as to why the phone bill would be such as it is.
Yeah.
Did you ask?
Did I ask?
Yeah, did you ask what the phone bills are?
No.
Okay.
So the,
Is that the general town telephone line item that was zero last year, the year before, and the year before?
general town,
Oh, I'm sorry. They went from 48 to 50 to 50 to 70? So an increase of 20?
yeah, current year is 50,000. Current year is 50,000. So I still gave them their extra 15K. Then ECC from 67,221 down to 60. The library from 117,731 to 107,731. I still kept them up about 17,000. The ambulance, I
You
cut
realize their increases, and most of that is contributed to minimum wage increase,
for what?
right? Library.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I didn't want to go down too low. Besides, I talked to somebody who deals with the library, so. The ambulance, I went back to 80,000. And that should come up with the 855,902. And then, in the initial budget, we had $1,067,546 to be used out of fund balance for particular projects. I cut that down to 461,546. I kept the gas hookups, road construction, revaluation, and the PD data terminal. The savings is 606,000, which we could use towards the 1.2, which means we only have to take out 600 from the fund balance instead of 1.2. You want me to do the Board of Ed? Yeah, that's 6 pages long. I just put line item cost quick is what I did. So let me ask the board, did anybody prepare for a Plan B in the last 2 or 3 weeks? Anybody here have any cuts to mention, or proposed cuts?
Well, I have thoughts in my, I've written down. I have dollar amounts written down, but as I said before, our job is to not dictate where the cuts are made. Our
No,
job-
these are suggestions.
Okay.
These are suggestions, that's
Okay.
all. I'm not telling where to cut, but I took the lesser of two evils. And when I cut the 546 from the Board of Ed, everything that gentleman mentioned is still in the budget.
Okay.
And to get rid of one teacher,
I'm just going to put a number, and I leave the individual cuts to side.
I understand what he's saying, but he's basically backing up his number. He gave us a
Right,
number,
right.
and this is how he came up with his number. It's a good idea. I mean, I think it's good that he proposed it that way.
Right,
And so let's just say, cut this and walk away from it.
right.
because all we ever do is pull numbers out of the air, because we have no clue what we're doing. We absolutely have no clue what we're doing.
And then, I mean, no, it's good to keep the numbers. But the bottom line, whatever the number is, at the end, what can we afford? What can the taxpayer afford? You got people on fixed income, we got what, 30% of the population? Something like that.
I mean, at these numbers,
And then, now you start, that'd be the seniors and the old ones on fixed income. What about the ones at the other end of the scale that are just really scraping by at that way low pay scale?
That's noticeable in the schools.
Right.
Reduced
Yeah,
lunches,
exactly.
how they track it. I forget what the poverty number is, it's pretty high, aren't they?
Whatever it is, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we got two ends, then you get the people in the middle.
because when I talked to Kelly last week about it, if I was to get, this is like almost 1.4, 1.3 and change, or whatever it is. If I got down to 1.2, she mentioned to me the mill rate would then be about 0.4.
Do what?
0.4. I'd take that for a spin.
So with the cuts, you said that it would be a 0.4?
Well, I actually thought it'd be a little bit less, because, if these numbers are approved or whatever, it actually probably may be a hair less. She comes, you can double check with her, Because right now, I think originally I was estimating at 1.2 million. This is a little bit more, but. I mean, it's just suggestions.
I'm willing to go like a 0.90, bring the next round,
We gotta go
0.90.
lower,
Huh?
we gotta go lower.
We'll be in July. We're gonna be in July if you keep this shit up.
Okay, we can go lower. That'd be
Like a
perfect.
0.5?
Huh?
A 0.5?
I mean, that's passable. That's
reasonable.
passable.
We can go all the way down to 0.5. That's fine. But I don't want to take anything out of the fund balance for it.
Fund balance is done, we've already taken too much out of the fund.
Right.
Yeah. See,
Exactly.
if you,
I'm not in favor of that.
right, if you do what I said about cutting the original out of the budget, the save the 606, we'll only be taking 1.6 versus 2.2. We'll be saving 600K by cutting that one line item in the budget for the fund balance section. I mean,
I'll be willing to
you
go
could take more, you could take
I'd be willing
less.
to go for 0.5 increase.
Well, you just can fight it out.
You want a finance director to join us tonight?
She'll be on her way.
She just texted me, she's gotten into traffic, she won't be here until 8:30.
No.
Okay, probably.
While I have this opportunity, Mr. Chair, may I comment as selectman?
Yes,
Gary's interpretation of the charter, is it 10-2, section E?
Yeah,
Is it 10-2E?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. So the Board of Finance upon request shall afford each agency, department, an opportunity for a hearing for the proposed budget of such agency or department, which we did. All department heads came to your board meetings, and they did that. And the Board of Finance shall then revise the estimates as it deems desirable and prepare a general town budget. What you did was not a general town budget. You were going line by line in response to what you cut.
Yeah, but it says per department, right?
Your interpretation, I believe, is incorrect.
Huh?
I believe your interpretation is incorrect.
Okay, I didn't know where you were related to, so.
If we're on the subject of what things may be cut, I think that there's some opportunity I can share with you if you don't mind. And again, you don't want to pass things around to do that. Gary, you said you wanted to cut $855,000 roughly, is that correct?
Oh, according to what I see, yeah.
Okay. When our initial budget was an increase from the previous year of $1,017,000, we already cut $290,000, an additional $855,000 means that you just said you want to cut 3 police officers, is that correct?
2.
You said 3, you said
2.
2 officers and you called the SROs.
No, the SRO stays. I just changed the line on that 51,000 down to a lower number because it didn't jive with the Board of Ed's estimate. The SRO
So you're
stays.
looking to cut, what you estimate your mill rate to be?
Well, when I talked to Callie at 1.2 million cut, I think she said it was like a 0.4.
I have a list of ideas for cuts. I mean, that would be up to you what the numbers you're going to look at. If you want me to share them, I can share them, but I think it's just appropriate for the board to come up with a number.
My concern with this is, I mean, obviously you spent a lot of time and did a lot of work.
Yeah, I do what I was hired to do.
Right. But my concern is that you looked at the book and you took a number and you didn't really go to all the departments. I mean, the telephone, for one example, how did you come up with that number?
I already told you twice already.
Okay.
Think about it.
All right.
Think about
But
it.
did you talk to somebody that pays the bills?
No.
Okay.
I look at previous years
Mm-hmm.
and I go by that.
Okay. But do you know what the rates are?
You go from 50 to 70,000.
But do you know what the rates are? Do you know why they came up with that number?
Here.
Do you?
No, I don't.
Right.
But-
So that's
but
why.
my question is-
That's
my
why
question
I
is-
still left it high.
Okay, you came up with a cut, okay, without getting additional information to justify or substantiate that cut. I mean, obviously you spent a lot of time and gave this a lot of thought, but, I mean, we just can't take line by line, we just take random numbers and make a cut without having additional information. That's why our job is to not tell people where they have to cut.
Well,
It's to
at
give them
least I made a frickin' effort to try it.
Well, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
Something that stuck in my mind, and I just direct this to Karen. The grand list, they said the collectibles are down to 97% as opposed to 90%.
I sent out lien notices, so, you know,
But
yeah, and I put a lot to tax sales, and they're probably getting their first letters for the attorney. So, they're still struggling. I mean, it's rough out, it's not easy.
Well, nobody's going to come into the tax collector's office and say, this is a piece
No,
of cake. Here
but
you
when
go."
they're giving me $5, $10 to put towards their bills, that's a little different.
My whole thought on that, Mr. Chairperson, was that last meeting, we talked about it being 97%, and my thought was if the collection rate is down, then the mill rate has to go up. I mean, we gotta get the money somewhere, but it doesn't.
Or you cut your spending.
Well,
Go ahead, finish. All right, please.
My paycheck's short this week, I spend less.
are you talking to me?
I'm just talking in general.
But have you finished your thought?
I finished that thought.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
To go forward with a 0.5 increase, what do you have to cut?
About 500,000?
No, it's more than
The person that asked is not here.
somewhere around 90,000. I have to run.
My other thought was to take some more money out of the fund balance. I still think that we're running at
You're
a
not
higher, excuse me,
Sorry.
the, I'm not sure what the percentage is. I think when we anticipated taking some out at the last meeting, it dropped it from 22% to 19%. And I think we can go to 15%. We've always been running between 12 and 15.
That's a great idea. The problem with that is you're not curbing the spending. Next year it's going to be even worse because we're not going to have the fund balance to fall back on, so we're going to look at a further increase
But
next year.
Sean, we don't know next year if, that's a big word, if in next year.
I'm hoping to be alive next year to be here to deal with it.
Do you heat your house with oil? Oh, what's the price of oil going to be next year? We don't know.
I adjust my budget accordingly to try
Yeah.
to adjust it, to manage it.
Yeah, when you know the price of oil, I mean, then we go, oh shit, let's not buy so many groceries.
But you're taking, no, what I do right now is I go to my bank account, which I got a little bit of extra in there, and I use that to offset the shortage, and I just try to cover it back
Exactly,
up.
which is why we
The
should take
problem
money out of the
is you
fund
can only
balance.
steal so much from that account before you get in trouble. And if you keep your spending high, you're not correcting yourself. You can only go there so many times, your check's only so much.
We haven't gone there.
We're going there big time this year. $1 million on the fund balance, is that what we did? 1.2? I think we gotta leave the fund balance alone at this point. We're already taking too much out of there for this year because we gotta curb our spending now.
So what number are you thinking to cut the budget more by?
My problem is I don't feel that we're getting honest answers from anybody anymore. Nobody wants to get. I think there's spending to be saved. There's money to be saved in all these budgets, but I don't know where because I don't feel that I'm getting honest answers. Everybody's always holding back because they don't want to give it up, because if they give it up, they're not going to get it next year. That's the way these budgets usually work over here. Honestly, what I would like, a 0 mil increase. We got hit hard last year, but I don't think that's possible.
We had 0.1 more than mill rate increase this year.
The mill rate increase hurt last year, but it wasn't that, it was the fact that our valuations went up and we all did.
No,
Yeah, the mill rate went down.
What?
The mill rate went down.
The mill rate went down, whatever, we still pay more because our valuations went up.
But this is how I look at that. We only reevaluate every 5 years. So the 3 years prior to the reevaluation. I was paying a valuation on my condo was $40,000 I was paying taxes on. Then my reevaluation went up to $150,000. But the first 3 years I lived in Plainfield, I only had to pay taxes on $40,000. I paid $150,000 for my condo,
So you were majorly underestimated.
and so was everybody else in this town.
No, they were not. No, they were not. You got lucky.
No. Oh, my God. Anyway, the whole point of all that was that we don't do mill creases in this town. Here's a printout, if you want to pass it around.
Can't pass paperwork around.
That's why I'm saying that.
You set that precedent.
I did?
Just now you did. When
I
Gary
was
tried
being-
pass this,
I
I
was
said no.
being sarcastic, Sean. Anyway, at 9.5, you'd be looking at 500,000.
That's a .95 in mill rate increase. That would bring us to a mill rate of 21.85, which is less than the mill over last year.
I think that's something that would actually pass. If we brought it to the town at a .95, the below one, I think actually has a chance of passing.
I don't think so.
2.95.
Hey, when the 5-year capital plan fails, you're in deep doo-doo. Because that should never fail.
I think that has a chance of passing, .5.
To get to .5, we need to cut another 900,000.
900,000.
It's actually .54.
Just point half. Go to .65.
0.65?
1.3 failed. So.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay,
Saying we're going to get half the one.
cut it now again. Yeah.
Put together the numbers, what's his name? At the end. Huh?
I think the word was we have to make a big change. I don't think just going under one is going to help us. What's that number look like, Daniel?
I'm working.
He's working on it. Yeah, he's working on it.
We don't have a motion, right? I wanted to.
No.
Because somebody mentioned that it was a significant statement last night by the voters, even that it came out 60%, 40%. But if you look at the numbers, 20% difference is like 160 people. So I don't really see that as being a huge disparity between what people think. I don't think we're $1 bazillion apart.
Are you saying you'd like to cut more out of the town then, when we do the division?
I'm just
There's not that
sharing
much
my
of it.
thoughts.
That's my thought, is that the word was from the residents, some of them were happy, more people were happy with the Board of Education than the town side. So do we go a little heavier on the town for this year, this time?
That's my numbers.
For once, Cheryl, we're both saying the same thing.
We tend to say the same thing, just a little differently. And we have emotions on our side, that's our problem. We just have to figure it out a little bit.
When we total 500, on all three items there. I don't know.
.61 increase over last year. 21.61.
What are we gonna cut? How much?
If we cut another $850,000, that would bring our mill rate down to 21.61, which is a .61 increase over last year.
Dean, I'd be curious to hear what Kevin's cuts might have been, or thoughts. I mean, I'd kind of like to see that sheet, or at least hear it, if possible.
On the ballot? That's a good idea.
You want
If it's possible.
You split that number.
everything here is highlighted in green.
Can you read that to us?
Yeah, can you,
I'll leave it to the chair.
Again, this is my suggestions on what we voted on.
Is this just his, or is this for both?
this is,
Dean,
yeah, it would be better if it would be better.
if what?
Yeah, if you could just read
You want me to just read it out?
it. Again, a summary would be fine, please.
Well, we had to listen to Gary's itemization. Why wouldn't we want to hear Kevin's?
Okay, then you're ready. Go ahead.
We did have a conversation this morning for the superintendent and myself. We were worried about what types of cuts and how deep it would be. I made my list inclusive of one of those items. I did talk to the other staff today, had a staff meeting, we talked about all these numbers, so it wouldn't be a surprise. We were talking about the possibility of a senior part-time staff at the rec center, about almost $28,000. Postage for $6,000, library $10,000, United Services $3,000, Project Pin $1,000, town buildings $10,000, police red dot sites $10,500, legal notices $25,000, police sergeant position $15,000. That's just a title, right? It's a sergeant.
Yes.
It moved up into a sergeant position.
Yes.
$15,000. Planning supplies $300. Planning vehicle maintenance $1,000. MS4 $5,000. PC supplies $600. Animal control vest. Animal control vet support for $5,000. EDC marketing $3,000. Legal $30,000. Contingency $30,000. Fireworks $12,000. And we had talked about this morning about the possibility of a police officer being number 22. And that would be about $150,000 in savings. So the grand total that I had here, again, not yet in front of my board, but my suggestions would be $322,807.
Did the Board of Ed come up with all this stuff?
No, I'll speak to that. I'll say a couple of pieces to that. One of them is that the SR number that Kevin had, which is you, my board has to make that decision. So when the Board of Finance gives me a number, our Board of Ed will meet tomorrow night. I presented a list of items to my Board of Ed to make changes to, and the board actually moved forward with a different list of items. So I don't intend to present a list because my board is ultimately going to make that list tomorrow night. But as I've talked throughout this process, First Selectman and I are talking quite a bit on ways to collaborate, recognizing that the public's focus. So we actually spoke multiple times.
So we're at, .65, getting it down to .65.
Actually, I got a .61.
Okay,
I was
Yes.
just doing the math. So you said 21.61 would be the mill rate?
Would be.
If you minus out our mill rate now, that's 0.71.
That's point one?
71.
Oh, thank you.
What number did you use for that?
No,
Well, you
yeah.
did the-
No, I know what I did, thank you.
Okay.
It's .71 increase, bringing the mill rate to 21.61. I said 6.1 and it's the
Yeah, I
number
think you just,
6.7.
yeah.
So, thank you.
So how much you want to cut to get the .71 increase? Eight something?
2.71 would be $850,000.
$850,000.
Karen, thanks for that correction.
Good.
Too many numbers.
Kevin, do you know what the percentage is of our fund balance? If we-
You mentioned that earlier, just a slight correction. We were at 26.
Okay,
Without the 1.2 million, we're down to 22.
so we would be at 22 if the budget.
We are right now.
Last night.
Right.
Oh, we're at,
We're at 22.
right.
So if you were to take any more, we'd have to make a calculation to figure out what that would be. Because you've already put 1.2 million into current, as part of it right now. That was voted on last night. So any additional would adjust it, yeah.
Do you know what that represents?
It depends on what you're looking to take out. I'd have to know the numbers that are calculated out. I mean, I would give you an estimate right now. If you were to ask for 300,000,
Yeah.
you're probably looking at 20%.
How does that sound, Sean?
No.
How much are you figuring that is going to cost?
Well, according to Kevin's numbers that he just said, if we
I
took,
know what he said there, but what's going to be going to the operating cost?
I don't know what you're asking.
Huh? All these numbers in your operating costs. You know, so it's what, telephone, it's what, it's all of the numbers.
But what did we run at? What are we running at currently?
Huh? How many hours we're going to need that fund balance that we go that way or, you know?
Are you kind of asking if it's going to go to something that is going to still be a loss next year? Is that the point of what you're trying to say?
We would have thought operating costs, but we still
Yeah.
have that thing to spend on here.
Instead of being just a one-time payment?
Might be a bigger problem because we're not going to have a fund balance to fall back on. So you're going to have a bigger increase next year. We're just kicking the can down the road.
We need to operate with it, you know,
We just need to bring it in a little bit, just trying to figure out where and
a
how.
little bit here and there. Do it now.
So you're saying we can't take anything, like 100,000?
I don't think we should take any more out of the fund balance
Than what we already,
than what we already have.
I won't put that in.
Do you still have that paper? Does Dean still have that?
I have it,
Okay. The stuff on the right-hand column,
yeah.
I'd like to talk about that too, if possible.
Dean, can I have more information to share on that?
Either Dean or Selectmen to talk about the right side.
All right.
Just, and I, Sean, I do appreciate that input because it keep on taking from this year, from the fund balance, it makes it difficult for next year, so I agree. What I've also like to propose is, because all three questions failed, the last one, which is your capital improvement, to give a better understanding to the public of what that really means. But also to that effect, when you put a budget together, you're talking about your annual budget, you're also taking capital items out of the fund balance. That's the last page. I would actually propose to make some modifications there, so we would actually cut some items in there as well. That makes it a little better to swallow with what you're going to have to worry about for what's left in your fund balance. I have a list there as well, totaling up to $181,000 worth of items, which I then propose to take out of that.
Can you tell us what those items might be?
Absolutely. The annex pavilion, we were talking about doing a survey and getting that prepared. We don't have to do that, so I was taking $16,000 out of there. Tax collector, I believe it's the windows for $3,000. The planning flooring for $20,000. Curtains, which are in need, but anyways, $5,000 there. Pool locker repair, $20,000. Mousse curb cut, $17,000. One police vehicle, $55,000, and one highway truck for $45,000. That totals up to $181,000. While it's a little bit, it does help in some regards because you're not taking that out of the fund balance, so you're leading it in.
Did you have a buildings and grounds truck in there too, a used vehicle?
Yeah,
Get
we
deleted
do.
out?
What was that dollar amount?
181.
181?
181,000.
You were talking about used,
It was a used building and grounds truck?
for 20,000?
Yeah.
Did you pull that?
Gotta find out. I don't think we did yet.
Because you bought 2 brand new trucks last year, correct?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? They're still brand new. They don't go anywhere. What do we got? Nothing.
All the pages I don't have.
Again, I can't tell you what to cut, but
I don't have that.
you have $200,000 for a transfer station. What was that again? Was that?
Yeah, if you
were gonna try to build one?
remember from the conversation we had for the department heads, Town of Plainfield currently, every municipality has to have a transfer station.
Yeah,
Whether you're sharing with somebody else, you have to have it.
right.
And what we have is on Root Road, and it is part of Casella Waste. Right now, the contract is for about $270,000 roughly, $258 now, and it keeps going up. The problem that we have with that particular contract is that, in my opinion, we're not getting value at all. What they do is they line up inside that building all those bins, and they're used by our residents on Saturday from 7 a.m. to noon. Other contractors come in and pay by the pound, and they go up and dump into our bins. And I know there are bins because at the end of the year, we get a report at every single one of those bins, the electric, the glass, we get charged for freons, we get charged for tires, we get charged for used motor oil, everything. And over the last few years, those numbers went up. I'll give you an example of used motor oil. On average, we were 250 gallons, and 1 year it jumped to 1,800 gallons. So it's not accurate. It's absolutely, every single one of those jumped way up. So they're looking to get the numbers up so the next contract they can ask us for more money. That $200,000 that I have in there, I'm looking to bring back the transfer station as we used to have at our town garage with a scale, so that way only the people that come in would utilize it, and I can take that $258,000 out of there.
Okay.
Save the taxpayers money. Because then it would be only, you using for, paying for the items that come in.
Yeah.
I have a way to contract that with someone who's going to help me out with a scale system of how to set it up, how to operate it, like other towns do. And then you have a price per pound, which is averaged over the last 10 years, which you can then calculate in the cost of the scale, the overtime on a Saturday for the highway staff, calibration, everything. So that's why I'm looking to do that, and I have to put an application in with the state of Connecticut. I don't anticipate continuing to pay the exorbitant rates for other people to come in and use our system.
When's that contract expire?
It's going to be coming up at the end of June 30th, 2026. I can still put my paperwork in with the state of Connecticut, still contract out with someone to work on doing that, fixing it all up for us, and have it in.
We cut 900,000. That brings it, mill rate increase to 0.67, gives us a new mill rate of 21.57.
What did Kevin offer so far?
What's that?
What was the first selectman's thought?
322
322
It was more than that, because it was talking about for
plus 181.
plus 181.
Plus 181.
And then that leaves 397.
For the Board of Ed.
Yes.
And what's that bring the mill rate to?
21.57.
And that's I should be able to figure this out. What's the increase?
0.67.
Well, that's nice.
And Karen can double check on that.
You mind repeating those numbers?
Yeah, a total of 900,000, 322 from the town, 181 from capital, and 397 from Board of Ed. That should equal out to $900,000.
It's kind of giving the board that gift.
Kind of, yeah.
Because the bigger cut should be coming out of theirs, because theirs is the bigger increase.
322 town, 181 capital, 397 Board of Ed. But that's just a suggestion. That's breaking down.
I would caution on that, because I don't think the 181 is actually part of your operating budget. It is straight money from the fund balance,
That's the
period.
point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's 22 minus the 900.
5,
So
7.
then you said we've already got it on the line.
So we will 578,
Yeah.
578 for the Board of Ed cut.
What if we did 480 from the Board of Ed, 320 from the town, for a total of 800,000?
What was the total, sorry? What was the total cut?
800.
800.
It's not dropping it down 0.71, but it's getting closer.
I think that's reasonable.
Tell you right.
Again, that was 320 from the town, 480 from the Board of Ed, for a total of 800,000.
Are you going to double check these numbers with Kelly, just because I'm coming up with different numbers than what needs coming up? Certain,
We hope so.
okay, because it might be that I'm just,
It's not our fault she's not here. She knew there was a meeting. I mean, she had something else to do.
right, but your numbers aren't going to be right by the mill rate. That's what I'm saying. If you can set the mill rate .67, but then it's going to be more money or less money. That's what I'm
Just that
saying.
dollar amount.
She's still on her way.
Right, you're better off with the dollar, exactly, you're better off with the dollar.
Yeah.
Table.
Just don't say
Go to
the
the
mill
other
rate.
items. And that way she can get here.
Because if you use the mill rate, I think it's going to be off a little bit. You're better off using the dollar amount.
Just a dollar amount.
Yep, that would be my suggestion.
That's all we have to do is a dollar
Right,
amount.
exactly. But if you mention it, the mill rate
Yeah.
in the way you word it.
Can we table for now and do the other items on the agenda and come back to it when Kelly gets here, when we get through those items?
Sounds like a plan.
You know,
Just want to know if we could table that for now.
just during this meeting, and come back to it when Kelly gets here.
Yeah. I don't think we can.
Why can't we table it?
Um,
We can make a motion to table it till the meeting and continue with the rest of our business.
Do we need Kelly?
Well, they're talking.
Yeah, you need Kelly.
There's-
Yeah. I thought.
I mean, I think Karen just covered that perfect. We just come up with a number.
I'm going to present a motion then, dealing with the dollar amount.
But the point is, at this point, it'd be nice to know what the increase will be on the mill rate, which we don't actually know for sure. We've got
We're close.
we're close, but we don't know the number.
Yeah.
So we're going to do 800,000 cut?
380 from the town?
320 from the town, 480 from the
No.
school,
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear you.
for a total of 800,000. That was just a suggestion or discussion point.
Nothing else on that.
Nothing from the fund balance at this point.
All right, does somebody want to make that a motion?
Does anybody have any thoughts on that before we make a motion?
Yeah.
I think it's a fair middle ground of where we were all thinking from the beginning, honestly.
I mean, at 850,000, you're looking at 0.71
Right.
mill rate increase. It's going to put you a little more, because we're not taking as much out. I wish I knew the number for sure.
I bet it's the new mill rate would be 21.648. So basically, it's a 6.5.
Would you say it was 21.648?
What is it, 21.8,
648.
Okay.
so 6.5.
So, no,
That'd be
it's
like a-
Karen, it's 0.75.
About 0.75, which is on this sheet that we handed before.
Okay. All right.
I think we stand a much better chance of passing a 0.75 increase.
All right.
The question is whether or not
How we
the board
communicate.
can work with those numbers. I know the town can, or it's been demonstrated as to if we possibly can do it.
Ultimately, I'd have to work with whatever numbers.
How would we, work that now? Just, I'll make the motion.
Yeah, that would reduce the budget by a total of $800,000, 480 from the Board of Ed, 1,520,000 from the town.
Exactly. That's what I just said.
Okay.
I moved that.
All right, motion's on the floor for Don, do I have a second? Right. All right, we have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion made by Don, seconded by Sean. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Who was the other opposed?
Linda.
Linda was opposed to that? Okay.
All right. Next item on our agenda is the line item transfers.
Now I have 2 pages here.
Yep.
The best I can see is we got completely common.
Yep.
He's already got that.
He's gave us a summary.
That's already in the other list.
Yep.
Right.
And it's included in this list.
Including that.
All right. Would the deputy like to make any comments on the line item transfers as requested by the police department?
Does that mean you have a specific question in reference to?
No, it's all pretty self-explanatory, but I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to it. I mean, it's pretty well documented.
Yeah, Chief does a good job with the documents. So basically, obviously, a lot of the stuff, like you said, is pretty self-explanatory on the line item transfers. We are working through some of the difficulties that we've had currently, obviously with dispatchers, in reference to dispatch salaries, for instance. Currently, we have 3 dispatchers in training, one of which is the full-time dispatcher position for the day shift dispatcher. Her name is Jessica Gauthier. And then we have 2 part-time trainees training. Now, this puts a lot of, obviously, stress on our full-time dispatchers, Dispatcher Cardean and Dispatcher Bodwin. But currently, we're hoping that every one of those are on track to get on board by July 1, to be on their own and be able to fill some of those slots. As far as the officer overtime, we are still down 2 officers. Those 2 officers left to pursue careers outside of law enforcement. So they did not leave to go to another department, which is a plus for us, obviously, because we're moving in the right direction as far as losses with the department. One of the biggest things with the vacancies, at this point, we're pushing forward with psychological exams. We have 2 qualified candidates who went through their polygraph and have successfully passed that. So hopefully those 2 will fill the 2 vacant spots come the beginning of June, and then go to the August academy. So once again, that will not play into our manpower on the road right away, but coming up on next year will help with that. In addition, we cannot prevent certain tragedies, such as today we had a suicide, unfortunately, which causes different type of manpower to be allocated there, such as detective response. The also biggest thing is administrative response. As in this new budget, we're asking for a supervisor. Currently now, I'm a 24/7 supervisor. I make decisions from my bedside at 2 a.m. and if it warrants it, obviously I come in. But there are certain times where you need additional supervisors, so there has been an increase in overtime because the lieutenant, the detective sergeant, where we've had to have multiple scenes with multiple supervisors for overtime reasons. So there's different things like that come into play that we can't control. Other than that, obviously what the chief put down there is pretty self-explanatory, but those are some of the goals we hope to reach in the near future and be able to move fast, especially come next year.
Kevin, would you like to comment on any of the items for your line item transfer?
These would be the same items that we talk about at every Board of Finance meeting, why we short here what's going on. So most of them are pretty self-explanatory. We're taking from certain areas that have money that's available. Again, you've already heard from the police the different areas that they're looking for. It's been pretty explanatory. We're having some issues with telephone, that's why we're going up this year. And also computer, this year's computer has been, unfortunately, a little more than we thought for costs, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking to go to a different company.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on telephone?
Sure.
Is that equipment cost upgrades, or is that a monthly service that we're paying for, we're short on?
Equipment costs. I can give an example of one of them. The company that we chose to do the installation came and did a check of all of our facilities, said, here's the items we're going to need. After that, then they started installing, and as the police know, oh, you need this, you need that, and then extra charged. So we're looking into that with the company to see if we can recover some of those monies. But in the meantime, that's why it would help.
Are we going to have to do that again next?
We have the hardware is there now, the wiring is there now. So we anticipated a better steady monthly fee at that point, but it was more than we thought.
So what's in the budget for this future?
A little more of an increase in this coming budget.
Is that for maintenance, or is that for additional equipment?
It's monthly
Service.
rental fees.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions on the line item transfers? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve them as presented.
I move we approve them as presented, the line item transfers.
Okay, motion is made by Don. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Stephanie. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Next item on our agenda is the suspense list.
All right, this year I'm asking for $48,933.68 to be put into the suspense list. Suspense list is people that have passed away, bankruptcy, businesses going out of town, people that totally moved away and just don't care, moved out of state. Some are people that are here and just refuse to pay. After this step, it goes right to the collection agency and will be put onto their credit report. So it's still collectible.
We're pushing it for collections, basically.
Correct, yeah. And it's wiped off my, my collectibles. So these are, old bills you're talking about,
I recognize some names.
Yeah, and there are some names that you would know that live in town and either businesses, there's no reinforcement.
So do we need a motion to accept it, or what do we
I
want here?
just out of curiosity, we got $49,000 here. Over the past years,
It's been a lot higher.
it's steadily going down the way it should.
Which is good, that's a good thing. And basically, last year was pretty high, but I got into it with this new collection agency, and now, if I see something coming up where they're not paying, let's say a 2020 bill, I'm throwing in their current bill too, because the assessor will keep taxing it if they're not, if they don't tell them they're out of business, the assessor's still gonna put it on the list every single year until they tell them they're out of business. So now I put it right in the collection quicker.
Right.
So I think it's helping out.
And
What percentage of these people, I didn't figure it out, that are deceased? I mean, can you, well, maybe, how much do you think we can collect from somebody that's?
Well, you're not gonna collect it if they did.
Unless they have a estate.
If they have a state, a lot of these do not have a state, because if they did, I would know. But it's only motor vehicle, personal property. There's no real estate unless I went to tax sale and I didn't get enough money to cover at the tax sale, I'm allowed to put that into suspense. Otherwise, you don't put real estate in suspense. It's only motor vehicle and personal property.
Notice on this year, we're doing a very good job in collecting back taxes. So
Yes, this year's been tremendous.
almost double what we anticipated.
Correct, yeah. Yep.
We need a motion to approve the suspense list.
I'll make that motion to approve it,
Okay.
as long as my name's not in there.
I'll second
Hold on a
it.
second.
I second it.
All right, motion to approve the suspense list made by Don, seconded by Sean. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So the next question I have is, do we want to keep going? We have two more items on our agenda. One is review of the town financial report, and the other is the review of the Board of Education financial report.
Could we table these till next meeting?
Okay.
Make a motion to table the next two agenda items to the next meeting.
All right.
That'd be the town's financial report and Board of Education financial report.
All right, motion is on the floor to table the next two agenda items to the next regular meeting. You made the motion, Sean?
I did.
Sean made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Stephanie. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And, with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn made by Lynn, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Lynn, seconded by Don. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. And Gary, thank you for putting all that work in.